This summer, Book TV is asking, what are you reading?
As the author of a new book about how Congress really works, it's called the Waxman Report. I would hope people would read that book. It's a nonfiction book, and I tend to read nonfiction rather than fiction, although sometimes I escape to a novel here or there. But some of the books that I listen to books rather than read them. And I'm listening to Tom Ricks's book, the sequel to Fiasco, which was a fabulous book. I just finished a book called The Inheritance by David Sanger about all the foreign policy problems that this administration is inheriting. And I'm looking forward to a book by Michael Oren about the involvement of the United States in the Middle East. I listened to his first book about the Six-Day War, and I highly recommend that book. It told me things that, even though I lived through the time of the Six-Day War of Israel against its Arab neighbors, there were things that I just didn't really know had happened behind the scenes. That's why I thought that book was worthwhile, and I think that's why my book is one that people ought to listen to or read, because it tells you things that you think you know about, but really don't know the full story of what the discussions were, what the controversies and the trade-offs to produce legislation. People usually hear about the scandals. They hear about the ineptness of government. People have been poisoned for a very long time since President Reagan, who said government is the problem, not the solution, to thinking government can do nothing right. But government can do and must do things that affect positively millions of Americans. And I tried to show how bills that I fought for, many of them were very controversial, were so successful. And I believe that the kinds of changes that we're now working on in Congress under the guidance and leadership of President Obama to reform our energy, to deal with health care and to make it affordable to all Americans, to hold down the costs so that we can balance our budgets, because the biggest costs we have in health care under Medicare and Medicaid, we got to bend that cost curve so we can hold down the deficit and make sure that we have a more rational system. Government can be a force for good. Government has been a force for good. And I try to point out how Congress often does the right thing that you don't hear about, because they're always hearing about the negative side of things.
To see more summer reading lists and other program information, visit our website at booktv.org.